楽しましてくれるぜ。お前に一ついいことを教えといてやる。極道ってのはな、ボクシングとは違え。喧嘩に負けたやつが敗者になるんじゃねえ。最後まで張り続けらんなかったやつが負けるんだよ。ああ、そうだろうが。極道の世界に KO はねえ。俺はな、キリ指の1本や2本なくそうが命ある限り何度でも這い上がってやる。だからよ、てめえみたいな半端もんが一番許せねえんだよ。死ねやボケや。
The Hero Rises 2021, a fierce battle to give everyone one free, hopefully powerful unit. No summoning, no gacha, just a voting gauntlet. In the final hour, Ninja makes a comeback, and everyone is rewarded with one free Ninja. This is both greatly appreciated by players around the world and feared by those now worried that Ninja will ruin all their AR defenses. And who could blame them? Ninja is the sole owner of a Brave Dagger, with a very high attack stat, can run Disarm Trap, and the cherry on top is the Gale Force button, letting her take down like 4+ units in a turn with Dancer support or other funny friends. Potentially immune to traps, capable of moving multiple times, and a powerful Brave makes Lyn crazy strong, nigh unbeatable. But you can beat her. In a post-Ninja world, let's discuss some anti-Ninja tech to help work the gears in your noggin and give you the power to deny Ninja her free wins. Like my Vector video, the biggest portion of this video is on Ninja's stomping your defense, since she's the strongest as an offense carry. More specifically, I'm going to detail 4 concepts when designing a defense that gives Ninja trouble, so you can either slow her down and bench her, or make her pull out the abacus in order to bend over backwards for a crazy play. These 4 concepts are using dual hindrance, having a very strong front line, having a lot of danger area and range, and having some turn 1 mayhem through the use of something like a restore trap. And at the end, I'll go over some odds and ends that don't really fit into all these categories. Yes, I will be talking about that. The most literal counter to Ninja is disabling her duo skill. Removing her free extra move prevents her disabling all her threats immediately. People will run Ninja with like 2 or 3 dancers, and sometimes even a duo dancer that gives even more movement for her. The reason for this is because taking out as many units at one go is imperative to her playstyle at high level. Duo's Hindrance directly shuts this down, and mitigates her ability to clean, sweep, and dip. Possibly even worse if they're trying to bring down duo dancers. Duo's Hindrance can't be outnumbered. Even if the foe brings like 3 duos, it'll stop them all. So running one of these buildings in a duo of your choosing is becoming more and more relevant, because Ninja isn't the only one causing havoc. And by the way, nobody has an excuse to not run a duo building anymore, because everybody got a free duo unit. That's right, one of her biggest enemies is herself. I'll be talking a bit about ARD Ninja later, because I imagine you'll see a fair bit of that too, but just having her on a team with her base kit is good enough. Though I recommend giving her something like aerobatics or an air order support, so she can create some synergy with your team better. If you have options, then there's plenty of solid duos to choose from. You will never go wrong by picking a dancer, since that basically just optimizes your team and lets you have more freedom with picking the rest of your units. Some take a bit of effort to mold in, but the debate of is it better to have a bad duo or 6 to 7 great units with no duo is a debate for a reason. I'll be bringing up some specific duos later as I touch upon the other concepts, such as... I've been running Duo Alphonse on a few comps now, and I think he makes for a great frontliner with an IP support or 2. Pre-charged special gives him a wary effect, and even more stats, while providing powerful damage and healing. not to mention that native special spiral keeps special up. I've opted to swap close counter for steady stance 4, and that gives him great Ninja matchups. Ninja will always need a way to get in to start causing trouble, and keeping her out by bulky gatekeepers or deadly frontliners is a good start. Dual fawns can be made to outbulk her attacks, stop a quad, and even deny specials thanks to running SS4. Though he's weak to a turn 1 engagement before his special is up. Let's go over who and what else works the best for this role. But first, there's 2 things I want to mention. The first one is a counter to your bulky frontliners that Ninja can use, Bolt Tower. If you run these units, you really need to think about this tower, as it's by far the most common offensive tower outside of Escape Ladder. No matter how bulky you think you are, no one's going to handle taking 40 damage well. Keep this tower in mind, and devise some backup shots or counterplay, including Healing Tower, multiple duos if your frontliner is a duo as dual Hindrance Insurance, or a Catapult / Duma. Turn 1 traps can also act as a check to this. This will come back up later. The other thing is Deflect Missile. Deflect Missile is the one single seal that can stop Lynja with basically any unit. It turns anyone into a Lynja check as it greatly reduces the damage you take from her Brave Dagger. It's a good universal skill to slow her down, and many units who might only barely beat or survive her will really appreciate it, or can better customize your units. Any of the units I will mention here on will appreciate it, but I'm going to only specifically mention a very small handful of Deflect Missile users going forward. Most will be shown without this seal. Run couch on your favorite frontliner to see who best uses this seal and who can beat Lynja themselves. Bulky ranged units are great, and I think there's a few good choice ones besides our previously mentioned dual fawns. Today's criminally underrated Gen 1 unit is Henry. He's legitimately great. Don't let the 23 base attack fool you. I know with Webb's condition of having less attack than the foe seems sketchy, but don't worry, a plus res Henry plus 10 and plus 15 Dragonflowers being buffed by both Saros and Duma only hits 50 attack. Neutral plus 0 Lyn with 5 Dragonflyers and a single Reagan ally has 51. Now, there needs to be at least a 3 attack difference to work, but I think you get the idea, and it's easy to lower Henry's attack thanks to fort skills. He should be out-attacked by any relevant ranged unit ramming into him, and against some choice non-blue tanks. Okay, maybe a blue tank here and there. Now, Henry probably isn't going to kill, but that's alright as long as he survives. Denying Lynja a kill denies her an action, and denying her an action denies her sweeps from going off. Also, he can kill a bonfire if he has a single point of pre-charge and low attack res, but the special doesn't matter if he's running Dagger Breaker, the hard counter skill, or Quick Riposte. Oh, and he might even be able to shrug off Bolt Tower damage and still survive Lynja, though I highly recommend low attack res for that, or dual range for something cheaper. Other Raven Tomes can work if you really want to use a fave. It's easy to get someone like Male Robin to work, even before Resplendent stats. I recommend Henry for this role the most. I think he is a definitive Raven frontliner. In a similar vein is Spendthrift tanks. Nothing wrong with throwing them on your def either, but they have a slightly tougher time due to lack of color advantage. Don't let that stop you though. A good Spendthrifter only uses a tank to hit because what Lynja is running Iode Shield. Ranged units aren't the only ones who can work. Melee frontliners still have a place here. Now, I'll preface by saying it's definitely recommended to run ranged units behind or adjacent to your 2 movement melee frontliners to artificially increase their threat range. Otherwise, it's too easy to poke a melee frontliner and perform a hit run strat. In the Dark Season, bring out your crusty old hell, who has a pretty nifty miracle effect in her weapon and a native guard bearing that combos beautifully with Deflect Missile. Plus, it's always good to be able to give your mythics useful function besides, I'm just here for stats and lift loss protection. As a tip for using Hell though, if she can't kill in a one hit with a special, you might want to actually replace DC with a different A skill, even a budget one. Otherwise, you won't get damage reduction from Lynja's 3rd hit, and that could be deadly. Lightning Round. Here's a selection of units you can use, as an example, who can take a Lynja and either kill or just survive. I already talked about Alphonse, but duo Ephraim can suffice in this role too. He's one of those units who wants to deflect missile or stat support, such as an ally with distant guards, but he can get a really easy one-shot on her and act as a duo for your Hindrance. It might be weird, but replacing his weapon with its curtains or gift fork give him more bulk and a better chance at one-shot. Like a lot of others, pre-charge is helpful, such as from Times Pulse or just 1 IP. Dual Marth is an option too, though being in armor can be tough to use unless he is a far safe. A Spendthrift build and something like a Stance 3 will really do wonders, and he doesn't need to rely on special damage because he's a bow. So as previously mentioned, stacking range is a really good idea. 1 or 2 ranged calves sitting on your front line or covering your bulky front line has the benefits of reducing your opponent's safe areas, which they need to get Dancers and Lyn herself into position. High range is pretty in vogue right now, for space denial and high pressure makes it harder to get into good defenses. It makes the other offense supports tremble from the risk of being sniped by follow-up turn layouts. There aren't too many examples to bring out here. High range is high range, and a majority of bow calves or mage calves can be built to be really spicy frontliners. If you want specifically bulky ones, Cecilia should be one of your first choices. Give her high defense skills, or even her TA Ravenfine if you need something more accessible. Spendthrift bows, once again, drop some heat versus Lyn. That said, you don't need bulky, you just need area denying with a good, bulky friend. Cav lines are wonderful versus Ninja as well. It is very hard to player phase those teams. There are exactly 3, at the time of this video's release, duos who fit this description. One of them is a dancer though, so he's more of a backline, but we're going to talk about him very soon. The other 2 don't really survive from enemy phase, but these are very good units in their own way. Mia will survive against a ton of scary tanks, so even if she isn't specifically good versus Lyn, you might want her for other thick, tanky bastards. Leaf is just a real motherfucker. He not only makes for a good frontline who's scary to take on, but makes for a threatening rally trap boy. Now this is a tried and true classic that many defense team makers have been using and experimenting with for years now. Restore Trap and Healer Assist AI in general will work turn 1, assuming there is a valid target and the units aren't being shut down by isolation, even if the foe isn't initiating on your team. And now, with Zeros, 7th unit traps exist too, meaning a dancer dancing your 7th unit frontline can create brand new aggravating situations. These work so well because Ninja needs a few turns usually to properly position herself and her dancer allies for a proper sweep. So turn 1 for start means the player has to play around that or just fetch her for another squad to handle it. Make sure your traps are properly built. If your trap doesn't really start initiations, then you risk your healer / dancer being easier to snipe for Ninja on turns 2 or later. For restore traps, foes not bringing debuffs kinda stops your turn 1 shenanigans. Not to mention isolation is a big fun thing, especially in dark. The best times to use a restore trap are when debuffing offense buildings are in bonus rotation, or if you're running Winter Birdie, in which case return, rescue, or physic traps are on the table now too. Having odd recovery or Sarah is helpful for nasty isolation units, but healers can't self-negate their penalties, so keep that in mind. Duo Sigurd is your best friend when it comes to 7th unit teams. I'm not going to delve too deeply into these comps, but the way these work is that your dancer is hopefully extending the range of your danger area, even if they've acted and can't move. A different unit with Rally, preferably a high range unit again, rallies your dancer if they overlap with one of your units now. A second dancer then comes and dances your rally unit, and that's the gist of how the 7th unit trap works. Sigurd, being the only 3 movement range dancer, is the best for this trap by far. If you don't have him, you can try a 2 movement range unit, including the duos Dorothea and Peony, but keep in mind your effectiveness may be limited. Far safe Vector. Yes, the far safe unit in the middle or backline of your team can be an effective pseudo frontline when dealing with this flying beast. Don't think you need Vector though. Free armors like Cecilia and Felix will be great candidates. Not to mention, Martha's right there for it too. And it's easy to grab DD4 for them too.
giving them even more insurance versus Lyn. Armors are definitely tough to use on defense though, even with the funny save skills, but forcing people to attack into them in a way can make it tougher to player phase mindlessly. Inflicting status on Lynja is difficult besides chills. Since she's the aggressor, she's probably disarming all those scary healers or Kemph-like creatures who would normally inflict status on end-turn users. But there are some creative units in the GHP pool who can annoy Lynja. Veld inflicts gravity on the units from across the map with the lowest stat in a sequential order per turn. Now this is rarely going to affect Lynja, to be fair, but there's a much better chance it applies to dancers. Creating awkward situations where a team has to be more creative in order to get a dancer to her, possibly forcing her to drop her sweep and let your team be killed. Solon is a nasty little boy, with a 5 range grab/guard on turns 3 and 4 for the nearest foe, unrestricted. That's a huge range, and also delays and interferes with Lynja's plays, especially for those who rely on the bolt tower. Tactics Room is a really good building to use against Lynja. It's hard to place it in a way that doesn't leave it exposed to sniping from her, but a good way to use it is to place it behind a defense fort and covering it with a large ranged unit. It's a great way to deter Lynja from coming up from a certain side, as long as it's placed correctly and used pretty well. Now, originally I planned on skipping ARD Lyn for this video, but I also told people to use her on ARD if they have to, so I'll play devil's advocate. She's pretty straightforward and, like back during my last video, doesn't shake things up too much here. She is a ranged nuke, which can be rare, and gives her access to aerial skills, but she's pretty straightforward. Her benefit is that her high speed lets her deal with some speed tanks better than others, but otherwise any good tank plays can probably deal with her, and well played / supported speed tanks will still outspeed her probably. Her best set is wind sweep, since slower tanks and the speed tanks she's able to outspeed can't retaliate, and that's always a good utility to have. And she can still hit twice thanks to her Brave effect, making her pretty comparable to dual Byleth. If you want to beat her, just outspeed her. Her enemy phase is very weak since her weapon lowers her defenses. If you use Lynja on offense, you can totally snipe her back. Yeah, I know I said Lynja on defense can beat Lynja on offense because she activates Duo's Hindrance, but hey, if you played Pokemon before, then you know that if you want to beat scary dragon types, you can bring out your scary dragon type too. There isn't anything too complicated with an ARD Lynja. She's a strong unit, even here, but her best abilities don't come out here and her weaknesses are more pronounced. And so, there you have it. Those are my certified pro gamer tips to help you deal with Lynja. Now, these tips will not stop every Lynja. In fact, if you fight a good enough player, they'll probably beat all the tricks that you used to have to try and slow them down. There are tons of creative players out there that will find a way to get past the common counters and counterplay to her. That shouldn't stop you from trying to improve your teams to be able to deal with units like Lynja and the other powerful threats that are out and will be coming out, because even small countermeasures can make a big difference against a lot of people. So those are my tips. If you liked my video, please like it, subscribe if you want to see more videos like these, and hope you all have a wonderful day. Except you. You know who I'm talking to.